You're listening to Hard Facts in 92.3 Nigeria Info. All right, so for those who are very much concerned about the electricity situation in Polu Rumigbo axis of River State, I've just been replied by my contact person at PHED, and he has said to me that they have turned off the power supply to that region. But I still would love it if I can get the exact location where it's happened, so that they can, send their staffers there and work in it and get things done. But then again, 11 minutes can pass the hour of 5, and it's time for us to start a new conversation. I'm Kala Dakarubata, but once again, this is Hard Facts on 92.3 Nigeria Info. I'm waiting to get in contact with my guest, Austen Sadu, Dr. Austen Sadu, a lecturer at the University of Port Harcourt, a one-time a member or leader in ASU here in River State. And we want to talk about something you and I briefly touched on yesterday, and it has to do with the federal government demanding 40% of the internally generated revenue of federal universities in Nigeria. And over the years, when we talk about education or ASU strike, we usually look at it from, these schools need more funding. These schools need more buildings and infrastructures, basically for proper learning, for quality learning, and for the development of Nigeria. Usually when we speak, we would say knowledge is power, or knowledge is the bedrock of a society. Without knowledge, a society cannot develop, and cannot develop in the way that it should. And that's why a lot of countries spend so much money in research and development. And like Femi, who called from the UK yesterday during our big story, said that in schools like Cambridge, that the amount that they budget for research and development alone is way more than the budget of many countries. And he mentioned Nigeria, so to say. And so we want to talk and we want to look at this issue and see what are the benefits. Is it connected to student loan that will, the student loan structure that will start sometime January 2024? Is that the reason why they want to do this? We need to look at the process and why the federal government wants to do it. But I'm still yet again waiting to get in touch with my guest. Is on transit, and so when he's settled, together we will have a conversation and talk for development. But what are you thinking about this? What is your thought about this? I know I asked you yesterday, but I'm asking you again. What is your thought when it comes to the federal government wanting to get 40% of revenue? I mean, these revenues have always been there, and yet the schools have been saying, it's not enough. We need more. We need government to invest more. We need government to up the education budget. We need government to improve the situation so that lecturers can go on research, so lecturers can have better welfare. And these guys are, intending to reduce the revenue that the schools have and that the schools use, to run their operations. So I've got Dr. Austen Sadu, a lecturer in the University of Port Harcourt, Department of Public Relations and Advertising. I hope I got it this time. I always fumble when it comes to the name of your department now. It used to be Linguistics and Communication, now Advertising and Public Relations. Welcome on the show.
Thank you very much.
All right, so we saw the report yesterday, carried by various dailies, that the federal government is eyeing 40% of universities' revenue. Can you expatiate on that, please?
Well, I think I am as confused as many Nigerians are. But it goes actually, if that report is true, it goes to support our fears over the years
Okay.
that the government is gradually planning a complete withdrawal of funding tertiary education in Nigeria. So when I got that information, I was alarmed because I was making calculations in my head to say that to the best of my knowledge, what is being charged presently in the universities is just like charges to meet specific services. For example, you need to give students ID card, and that's 1,000 naira, so you charge 1,000 naira. You need to charge students for examination material, maybe to make the booklets, and it's 3,000 naira, you charge 3,000 naira. So these things are just charged according to the specific need of those students. And so I was alarmed because what I feel now is if the universities are to give 40% of that, it means that they will not be able to meet the cost of running or providing those services. And the other way they may probably do that will now be to increase whatever charge they are doing to say about 400 or 500%. So after giving 40% of that, they will still come to the level of being able to fund those items on the log.
All right.
But I was actually shocked that some person said, and I didn't verify this completely from the bursary or from any vice chancellor, but from what I read from the paper, it appears that already they are already taking 25%, that it is just an upgrade from 25% to 40%, which I think is quite alarming.
Now, you've been a part of, or you were once a part of, the leadership of ASU here in River State, and at the time you were part of the people, you were part of the leadership of ASU fighting for more funding in federal universities. Now, what is being charged students, I want to believe, is not necessarily tuition fees. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
So the money, let's say 40,000 at the time, because now there is an increment, or let's say 100,000. That money is for the operational cost of the school. Correct me if I'm wrong as well.
That's correct.
And so if that is for the operational cost of the school, like buying diesel, paying, the security and on all the laborers in the school and all of that stuff, how then will the school survive? Because the school, despite collecting these fees, have been saying to the government that we need more money, we need more infrastructures rather. How will the school now maneuver this situation? And if it is true that they have been collecting 25%, can we argue that just maybe that is one of the reasons why the schools have not been able to perform optimally?
Well, there's no doubt about that. Even many of the universities are actually, in terms of municipal service, they are not providing enough for the students. If you go to some universities, electricity is not guaranteed even during working hours on a daily basis. The maintenance of the hostels are not at the highest level. Services like security cannot be taken for granted, and cleaning up the refuse and all that. So the universities are already having a lot of challenges, and with this, as I said in my opening statement, what is only imaginable to a rational being is that there will be a further increase on those the cost of those charges for the universities to come to a point of just minimal requirement, not even at the optimal level. And so clearly, for me, two things: government is withdrawing funding from the universities and actually transferring costs to students and parents, which is a dangerous thing because at the level of our economy, cannot afford to charge our education at the level that is claimed by some Western countries, even though some developed countries like Finland, like Germany, like Australia, and a host of other countries also do tuition free tertiary education. So I do not know what model the Nigerian government is trying to implement, or the effect of it is that students will be expected to pay more. Yeah.
Okay. So the last time you were here in the studio, you were present in the studio. I asked you a question. I had the line of thought where, I asked a question about the universities generating revenue, because we're talking about how best to fund universities during that period of the student loans and all of that stuff. And I asked the question: should we make our universities a revenue generating industry like we see in some parts? And you said the university is not supposed to be a revenue generating industry, but is it not what it?
I think a while ago I said I don't know what more the federal government is planning to run. Universally, universities are not classified as revenue yielding. In fact, as a matter of fact, what happens is in those developed environments, universities derive a lot of funding from many organizations, including graduates of those institutions and all forms of endowment by the private sector who will want to encourage research in certain areas of interest to them, so they fund it, and that becomes a source of funding to the university. What I'm hearing now is quite strange to me, but if you consider that this is Nigeria, then it will not be strange, because in Nigeria, we go outside the normal thing. We do things upside down in this country in a lot of ways. So I will not be surprised that the only way administrators or leaders in this country think that they can provide tertiary education is to overburden parents with increment. And as a matter of fact, they have argued that sustainable method of funding will be in education bank, which they have just budgeted 5.5 billion. And I think the Senate in its presentation or in its evaluation of that supplementary budget claimed to have also diverted the 5.5 billion for the presidential yacht to education bank. And at best, what that is going to do is, and I like to run my analysis through numbers. So if you have 5.5 billion, you're going to give each student 200,000 naira a year for the purposes of the cost option. You will only succeed in giving 7,500 students across Nigerian universities. If you reduce it further to 100,000 every year each student, you only give 55,000 students. So you ask yourself, what is the population of schools? Many public universities have population between 20, 35, 40,000. So you're even not able to take care of more than one university out of more than 80 universities you have in the public university system. So I don't actually understand what is happening, but what I think is that government is gradually withdrawing complete funding from
Okay.
public tertiary institutions.
I will have to pause you. We have a commercial break coming up. When we come back, I would speak more, or I would like you to speak more on the education bank, the student loan coming up in January 2024, and if there is any link, to the issue before us.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Been told I have a limited time, so I'm just going to go back to my guest, Dr. Austen Sadu, a lecturer at the University of Port Harcourt, the Department of Advertising and Public Relations, or Public Relations and Advertising. Welcome back on the show.
Thank you very much.
All right, so we're talking about Education Bank. We have just I think a few minutes. So can you tell us more about the Education Bank and how it relates with maybe increment in fees as we have seen recently, or even the student loans that will start operation January 2024?
Well, first, I'd like to say that it's not possible that any form of education, any form of student loan can commence in January. Remember that before now, they actually said it was going to commence in September, October this year, but it didn't. And I'm not sure anybody actually gave any reason why it didn't happen. So I also think that January will not be feasible. The reason is that in its initial form, when that bill was signed into law, in its initial form, it was not practicable. It's not something that will work because the caliber of people that would be expected to sign as guarantors for students are not accessible to many of those students who are supposed to be beneficiaries of that loan scheme.
Okay.
Again, at that time, it was one of the requirements is that both parents of any beneficiary should not earn more than 500,000 naira. And at that time, if we put what they're earning together, it's talking about 30 minimum wage was quite above that by two parents. So you see that it was actually not practicable. And I think they have gone to amend that law. I don't know the details now. And if they intend to make it functional as early as January, by now we should have had those details.
So sorry. Let me pause you. So, are you saying the details have not yet been transmitted to the schools, to the federal schools?
Well, I am not part of the administration, but I am not also sure that the amendment of that bill has been concluded. If it is, it will be public knowledge. It doesn't have to go to the universities. It's a law. It's a piece of legislation in this country that should be acceptable to every Nigerian, not necessarily administrators of universities. So if I don't know about it, or any person who is expected to be a beneficiary doesn't know about it, then you wouldn't know how to access it. And that's the point I'm making, that accessing it is going to be extremely impossible at this time. But also given by the amount of money that has been budgeted in the supplementary budget, it is not feasible that we will have that kind of amount of money for Nigerian students. And I just given you the statistics of what it's supposed to be. So if you want to increase fees and people are going to pay just about 100,000 or 50,000 or 200,000, then you are not going to reach so many Nigerians. And I don't think that is intentional. So moving forward, I actually imagine that it is cheaper for government to do what they are doing by putting funds into projects and taking up the responsibility of salaries and some other things, interventions they will do in the university, other than going through this route they are doing, because this is a route that will lead ultimately to disaster.
Right.
So I don't think that will work. Then to increase fees is also not beneficial, because you see Nigerians now, I mean, at my level as a lecturer in the university, I'm still not able to take care of my family. So you can imagine what people who are lower the rungs of the ladder are going through in Nigeria. Never mind that those who are political leaders do not behave as if Nigeria is in trouble. Except there are things they know which we do not know. I like to believe that this nation is in trouble, and you cannot expect them to pay more from the little things they are getting from their salaries. All
right, I would have to go at this point. We're one for time. I'm really sorry. And you have also a busy day, so I would have to let you go. But thank you very much for being a part of the show and for educating us on the issues.
Thank you very much for having me on your program.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Austen Sadu, a lecturer at University of Port Harcourt. And yes, once upon a time, a very... it was part of the leadership of ASU, and he was fighting for our federal universities. Thank you very much once again. All right, do stay tuned. We We'll go for another commercial break. When we come back, I will talk some more. Do stay tuned once again.